Today's podcast is brought to you by Funny Bone Broth, now available at Eataly and McEwen's in the TD Center. Or you can visit them at funnybonebroth.com.
In a world where it seems totally normal to listen to a podcast about the Toronto Argonauts, it's the X's and Argos podcast.
Welcome to the X's and Argos podcast. My name is Ben Grant, joined as always by JB. We've got another exciting episode for you today. We're going to get serious. We're going to talk about social justice. We're going to talk about Black Lives Matter and everything that's going on in the United States right now, but also how that intersects with the sports world. And JB wrote a fantastic article on that you can find on xsandargos.com. And we've also got an interview with Shaq Richardson. And I was going to say Argos cornerback Shaq Richardson, but he might take issue with that because in our interview we talk about what position he should be playing this year and what position he views himself as. And JB, you may remember that Shaq and I got into it a couple months ago when I put out my first depth chart of the year, and he didn't like the fact that I had him at field corner, and so we have a bit of fun with that as well. So that's all coming up today. JB, you put out an outstanding article yesterday. I was reading through it last night. It's an excellent piece of work, a really difficult article, I think, to put together as well. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that as we sort of lead off the podcast. So why don't you tell us first about the article that you wrote?
Yeah, I think that everyone knows that we're now in the midst of, I wouldn't say a revolution, but there certainly is a lot of societal unrest in North America. A lot of it was triggered by the murder of George Floyd. And really, it's asking people to address racism, structural racism, violence perpetrated against people of color by institutions, by the police in George Floyd's case, and often the case in cities in North America. And for sports fans, I think that people have always tried to separate sports from the world and used it as an escape. And I think that if you look at any sports organization or sports website, it's clear that division is a false one. That the men and women, but in our case, watching the CFL, the men who play this game, the African American, African Canadian men who play this game have to live and address this in their lives every day. And it just is not fair for fans to allow it to occur without trying to do something to fight it, to stop it. And so really my article was kind of compilation of some things I had found and my own personal feelings about what people can do, what white fans can do to address racism, to fight it.
Without spoiling your entire article, and if you haven't had a chance to see the article yet, you should definitely check it out. It's on xsandargos.com. It's called Bigger Than Sports. Without spoiling the whole thing, can you maybe give us one of the suggestions that you came out with in terms of what people can do in order to help instead of hurt?
Well, I think, the reason I wrote the article, obviously I was, moved by my own personal feelings about white supremacy and racism in society and how it's not addressed. It's not addressed by many people. It's allowed to exist and it needs to be faced. There has been a willful ignorance of it, and these events are bringing it to the forefront. And so part of it was that my own personal feelings about that. I think one of the suggestions, which I thought was really easy for people to do, I'll say two. I think that donating to organizations is a tangible way to try and make improvements. You can find an organization that fits with your interest or your area, but there are lots of organizations, obviously starting with Black Lives Matter's Toronto chapter, but many organizations that are working for racial equality, working to help support people with expenses, with legal expenses, with legal challenges. So that's, I think, the first and most primary way is for people to financially support these organizations who are doing the work every day. The other thing I would suggest is the social media aspect. To read the players, both of the Argos and in all sports, all teams, read their experiences. I thought Pinball had a very powerful clip on the Argos Twitter feed, but read the articles that are reposted. Read what players are saying about what they face in their lives, because the level of honesty and the level of sharing is really amazing out there right now. And I think that not enough people consider players people and see them as, athletes who play but they are not people who live lives. And that would be my request, would be for fans to read, to think, and start with that. I think would be really important, because it has to be addressed.
There was some news that came out yesterday in the basketball community. One of the Sacramento Kings announcers, Grant Napier, was suspended from his job. He got into an argument on Twitter with DeMarcus Cousins, former Kings all-star player. Cousins asked Napier what he thought about the Black Lives Matter movement. And Napier's response was that he believes all lives matter. He has since apologized for that comment and sort of explained that he was uneducated on Black Lives Matter, and he claims he didn't understand that when he said all lives matter, he didn't understand that was an inappropriate response. Can you explain to people that don't understand that are, from their perspective, they're saying, well, I care about everybody. I care about everybody equally. Isn't that a good thing? Why is responding to Black Lives Matter with all lives matter the wrong thing to say?
Well, I think this conversation is a challenging one for a lot of people. I think what's really important is that everyone is able to have a discussion and be open to learning new things, and to be willing to expand their horizon and their understandings. Because a lot of times when talking about race, people can get very heated, very defensive. And the All Lives Matter expression, which was sort of a response to Black Lives Matter, is a fairly standard sociological technique to try and co-opt a phrase or a strategy being used by a minority by the majority. And when they look at all lives matter, what you're suggesting is that Black lives are not special. They don't have any special challenges, that they are not the object of racism, that everyone faces racism, everyone has problems. It totally takes away the attention from a group that is clearly, statistically, sociologically being discriminated against. And so when Black Lives Matter is said, it means that these lives of people matter, that they are not just simply statistics, or that it's okay for Black men and women to be killed at a rate much higher than any other racial group. And you're asking people to think about, why is this inequality happening? When you say all lives matter, I guess the analogy would be saying cancer fundraising, and then somebody says, well, all disease matters. Why are we giving to cancer? Well, that totally takes away from the point of a cancer fundraiser. So you can't say, well, all diseases matter, so I'm not going to give or pay any attention to this one cancer fundraiser. when you say all lives matter, you're saying your particular complaint as a black man or woman is not important. Everybody has problems. And so at its core, it's dismissive of the conversation. And I don't think somebody who says it is necessarily racist, but it definitely does mean that that person has not done any reading. There is a lot of information out there that would explain to you quite clearly why all lives matter is an offensive phrase. You know, it's really important for people to be open to reading and thinking and talking about what is happening about race in North America. And that's not going to be easy for lots of people. I think for anybody, you know, for myself to examine my own biases. It's a challenging thing, but I think that it's really important for people to get past the defensiveness and to get past the anger and to understand why so many people are so upset at how they are treated in society.
So where do we go from here?
For me, it's important to express that this is not some sort of from the mountain instructions that I'm giving. I am like anyone. I have flaws and I need to re-examine and constantly be reevaluating how I interact with the world. What I'm hoping is that this will be a moment where people will really realize, especially people who've been privileged enough to never have to think about it on a daily basis, that racism is truly present, is truly an evil aspect of our society that has to be addressed and attacked through knowledge, through compassion, through money, through government reform, through all sorts of venues. And for me, that's what this article, that's what my sort of daily life is about, is how can I help? I can't just pretend it is not happening every day or just accept it as a reality of the world. I think it is important for myself to take it on.
One of the things you said in your article, which I thought was really important, was listening to players, you know, following them on Twitter, because a lot of CFL players are talking about this right now. And it's something that's very important to them, as it should be. Obviously, it should be important to everybody. And I think they've got a really good perspective, especially where you're talking about Black players who have experienced this prejudice their whole life and are talking about this right now. I think it's really important to listen. And, you know, following some of these guys on Twitter, we're talking about, you know, if we outlined in our last podcast some of the best follows, but yeah, you mentioned guys like Natea J and Joanne Brescison as guys to follow who are, you know, really intelligent guys who have found a great way on social media to help educate everybody else. And I've found a lot of value in going through their timelines and learning more about this as we go forward. And in my interview with Shaq that we've got coming up, I was really interested to hear his opinion, because there's a guy that is in Los Angeles, you know, with a young family, and it's got to be terrifying, you know, knowing the environment that he's in, and you know, and he's worried about his kids, and he's thinking about his kids' future as well. And so that's one of the first things I asked him in this interview, because I find that that's a perspective that I can't have on my own. I can't see that on my own. I can't experience that. And so I really wanted to ask him about that, to really help me understand, you know, what he's going through and what it is like to go through this as a Black man in America. Because obviously, you know, that's not something that I can see firsthand.
And I'm really excited to hear the interview, because I think Shaq is going to be one of my favorite players. So I'm really looking forward to this.
It was a lot of fun, actually. We had some good laughs, but we addressed some serious topics as well. But yeah, I tried to give him the gears a little bit about critiquing my depth chart for having him at at field corner. But yeah, instead of telling you about the entire interview, why don't we get to that right now? Shaq Richardson, thanks so much for joining me on the X's and Argos podcast.
Of course, no problem.
Are you in LA right now?
Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles.
I was watching the protests and I knew I'd be talking to you. It occurred to me that you were born a month before the LA riots. Those riots and protests all across North America and around the world stem from the acquittal of 4 officers for the vicious beating of Rodney King, a black man who was unarmed, handcuffed. And here we are now, 28 years later. There are protests in LA all over North America because George Floyd, a black man, unarmed, handcuffed, was killed by a police officer in Minnesota. How does this end?
How it ends, well, I just know that we got to make a lot of progress as a country and how we treat each other and how, our subconscious actions force us to treat, people a certain way. I just want to say I feel the pain that all the people in America feel and around the world feel because of these actions. And I think it'll begin to change when we start holding our law enforcement accountable for things like this that are beyond the description of their job, as to protect and serve the people. Once they take it past this, I think they need to be held at the same standard that citizens are held.
Well, I hope you and your family are safe. 2020 is going to be a year that people talk about for decades, and we're just not off to a good start.
Not off to a good start, but I hope in this year that we can see a lot of change. A lot of change as far as with the quarantine, as far as creativity and the collaborations and the things that people have done to start businesses while being at home. And with this situation with George Floyd, I just hope that we make a turn towards a more unifying country and a less divisive, rhetoric or a less charged type of approach to these situations, like protesting and looting. It has a certain connotation, but I feel like all that is in response to police brutality. So I think we just need to stop. I think we need to focus on the police brutality and the treatment of Black people in America before we complain about the looting or the rioting, because it's a direct consequence. It's an immediate consequence to a innocent Black death.
I hope this is the time that everyone finally comes together. I thought it might have been after Trayvon Martin. I thought again it might have been after all of the things that Colin Kaepernick was doing. Surely now there has to be some change. It's getting to the point where I can't even watch the news anymore.
Yeah, not at all. It's I've been in the house protecting my family and everything, but I'm in full support for peaceful protesting around the world. Everybody is coming together to have the same message. I really appreciate that it's not just Minnesota. Now it's LA. Now it's New York. Now it's Texas. Now it's all these other places. Now it's all around the world with the same message. And I think our message is getting louder and louder, after every event. I think also it being on the fact that we were all on quarantine while this happening, so everybody can see it even, clearer. And the fact that now we're putting pressure on people. If you don't speak up in these times, then you're a part of the group that's allowing it to continue. If you don't cut out the cancer, then you're allowing the cancer to grow. So I think it's a lot more pressure on celebrities and of all colors to come out and speak out on the brutality that's going on. If you ignore it, then I think that says a lot about where you need to grow as a person, or whoever is in a situation where they don't feel any kind of way about the situation. If you don't feel a way, then I feel like that means that you need to evaluate, your subconscious beliefs and why you don't feel strongly about what's going on.
You've got 2 young kids, right?
Yeah, 2 daughters.
Let's hope we can make enough change so that your daughters won't have to go through some of the things I'm sure you've had to go through.
That's what I hope for. I feel like our generation, my generation, I'm 28. I feel like my generation and, millennials are going to be a pivotal generation that hopefully brings more change for the next generation. I don't think this is a time where we hopefully will see actual, change.
Well said. You're not far from where you grew up. You ever go by your old high school?
Yeah, Los Alamitos.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
They've got a great new field, and it's named after your old head coach,
John Barnes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Got a lot of love for John Barnes. He looked out for me a lot, steered me in a great direction. I haven't been to Los Al maybe I would say a year or 2, so I haven't seen all the upgrades. But yeah, I think Los Al is doing great. I gotta go by there. I might, the CFL is off, so I might need to train some of those kids and get them some scholarships around there.
For sure. See what you can do. Did you start at Los Al or did you transfer in there?
Yeah, I transferred in sophomore year. I went to Narbonne in Harbor City.
All right. What made you transfer?
There's opportunity. There's a lot of inner city distractions that I was partaking in. And I just needed to, focus up my life, really focus on things that were important to me, which was football and school. And, I think it was a better environment for me to do that, focus on football and school, which I did.
Your last high school game was against Long Beach Poly. Do you remember that game?
I don't remember. I had a concussion that game. And I don't remember the game. I don't remember the game, actually. Literally don't remember it.
They're pretty legendary. You ever talk to Alden Darby about his big win against Long Beach Poly?
He doesn't let you not talk about it. That's the biggest in his school's history. So he was a part of that. So that's great for him. Yeah.
Have you ever seen him play QB?
No, I haven't seen him play QB.
He's got this shortstop sidearm delivery, but it worked for him.
He was definitely a running quarterback.
Well, he claims he was allowed to throw, but yeah, that game against I've seen the highlights of that game against Long Beach Poly, and it's mostly him running. But he was playing DB that whole game. He was covering Kalen Clay that entire game.
Yeah, Kalen Clay is actually the guy that gave me a concussion. Yeah, I was blitzing off the edge at corner, run action away, and I was tackle for loss. Don't get me wrong, but so I'm blitzing off the edge. He's behind the line. I jive and hit him like with the side of my head. His knee hit the side of my head, and that was it.
You and Darby had never been too far apart. He was in Long Beach. You were in Los Al, then in Arizona State and Arizona, and then he was in Pittsburgh a year after you were, and now here you are both in Toronto.
Yeah, and we trained together in the off season. Yeah, so that's my guy.
I think that's great when you have guys in a positional group, especially multiple guys in a positional group that have a relationship off the field. It's so much better.
Yeah, it definitely builds chemistry, trust, like not telepathic thinking, but, confidence and, trust and, that somebody's going to be where they said he's going to be, or, I can tell him I'm going to do something and he understands why I'm going to do it, or he just believes me when I do it, doesn't second guess it, he just jumps where I need him to jump or whatever the case may be. I think defense, you got to work together. And if you can make the same play unique in different plays, by doing the same thing but doing it different ways, you could, make a lot more plays on the ball and confuse offenses. I like playing with guys like Darby.
You were a pretty good receiver in high school. When did you know you were going to be a DB instead of a receiver going forward?
When I got to Los Al, they changed my position. I was a receiver my freshman year. Then my sophomore year, I played receiver and DB. And then I just, I have a cousin, Paul Richardson. He plays a receiver in the NFL. So I wasn't doing the same thing he was at receiver at the time. So, he basically was getting all the catches. He had guys that were getting all the catches on our team already in high school. So my place was going to be on defenses. I was going to be starting. Then I got a trainer for DB. I had offers for both. Athlete from Utah. I could have, played both ways. But I realized that probably junior and senior year when I really started training outside of the team activities. Started training at DB and started, getting better and everything, doing camps at DB and everything. Scholarship offers. So I played both, but I was getting scholarship offers for DB.
Right. So you end up coming to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest adjustment? You get to Calgary in terms of style of football.
The biggest adjustment, Calgary worked me in very, very good. They gave me a lot of adjustment time. I was on the practice squad for, let's say, like 8 weeks first. And then I went to the Titans. Then when I came back from the Titans, I was like a rotational DB, like a spur type of DB, come in when you add the extra DB. So that first half of the year, I came like mid-season, and they just plugged me in here and there. So that helped me warm up, got me a couple starts. The field size is a big difference though, that I realized being so big. And then that next year I was a full starter, so I had a growing period where I could learn the game more. I didn't rush into just playing. So I think that helped me adjust, and Calgary helped me do
that. It wasn't quite like that coming into Toronto this year. You signed, and then like 4 days later, you were starting.
Yeah, no, that was crazy. And I came to the first day practice, and I was starting. I was like, "Oh, they serious."
we needed you,
right? I was like, "Oh, they're serious over here. I got you. Let me get ready."
That game in Montreal, you probably didn't get much a chance to watch their defense, but they had over 10 DB blitzes in that game. It was so exciting to watch. Why don't you think we ran the same kind of exotic stuff on defense? Why don't we have things like that installed in Toronto?
Well, I'm not sure. I wasn't there for that long, but I know we had a lot of injuries. The playbook was simplified, and I think at that point of the year, the season was pretty much over. So it wasn't, we were trying to win our games, but it wasn't like we were trying to, reinvent the wheel, Let's go out there, let's play hard, even though the season's over, let's, give our 100% effort, have respect and pride about being on the field. So when you do that, you're not drawing in, trick plays, you're not drawing in all types of, fancy different things. Maybe if you're working on some stuff for the playoffs, then you want to, all right, let's get this play ready for the playoffs, or something like that. So I wasn't there the whole year, so I don't know about the whole year. But when I was there, it just wasn't a real force, to be creative in these last 3 games.
Probably what most fans remember about you from last year was your pick 6 against Hamilton. It's on TV a lot up here. It was a great individual play, but it was also sort of a microcosm of the Argos defense last year. So the defensive play call comes in late. Most of the defense doesn't know what the play is. You make an intelligent read, make an athletic break on the ball, and take it in for 6. But that's not a sustainable model for success. You've got to be excited about Coach Young coming in here with some new ideas, going to shake things up a bit. That's got to be something to look forward to. Oh
yeah, I'm very excited about next year. I wish we could have been jumped on it already, but with this pandemic going on, I'm very excited to get back out there. We signed so many DBs that I already have relationships with, so it's like I play right next to Tommy for multiple games all year long. Me and Jeff Richards, we train off season. Or me and Darby, we train off season. It's like all the players that are still there, not many, but like Boateng and other players that are still there, already started forming good relationships. I'm excited to get out there. I don't know what we're going to be running. Not yet. We're supposed to get on our Zoom meetings soon, but I'm excited to just go in there and make some plays. I just like getting picks and making plays and scoring touchdowns. Really, that's it. One of my mottos is big plays only. So like, if I make a tackle or something, I don't even count the tackle. I only count interceptions, pass breakups, tackles for loss, sacks, fumbles, fumble recoveries. Only like game-changing plays are the plays that I even consider during the game.
Now, you gave me some heat a few months ago when I put out a depth chart and I had you at field corner, and I think I had Tommy playing boundary, but then the CFL website came out and you were playing Sam. So, I wasn't the only one that you weren't happy with. If you're Coach Young, where do you put you, Tommy, and Darby so you can all be on the field at the same time?
Well, the coaches are going to decide that when we get there. But knowing the skill sets of, all the players that I do know, I have created an amazing lineup between, me, Darby, Jeff, Tommy, Lacombo. Yeah, he's going to be a good force. I'm excited. I just see myself. I see myself playing in the position where the ball is thrown to the most. So I feel like that's boundary half. It's the easiest throw for the quarterback, right next to the quarterback. A lot of the best receivers play 1 week and 2 week, and it's just a more action-packed environment right there in the boundary. So I like being in the boundary. I have had success at Sam, so that's why they want to see me at Sam with our new coach coming from Calgary. He's seen me play Sam before, and everybody wants me to play Sam. But I really want to play boundary half. I don't know. I seen, Brandon Smith from Calgary.
Yep.
He played boundary half, and he's had a great career at boundary half. I got to play in his position a couple times when he's a vet, so he either took a game off or whatever the case may be. And that's my favorite position, really. Boundary corner and boundary half. Anywhere in the boundary, though.
So there are 60 guys coming in who weren't on the team last year. Who are you most excited to play with?
I am most excited about playing with Bresk and DeVaris on offense. Besides Darby, of course. I'm very excited to play with Darby. But between the receivers that we brought in from Calgary that were in Calgary when I was in Calgary, I'm anxious to get back to competing during practice and being over prepared for games, having fun, the little friendly rivalries that we can build in practice that will grow and help us grow for games. I'm looking forward to that challenge and everything. And Matt Nichols to throw me a couple passes.
I'm not sure how high that is on his list. Breskison, the first time I saw him, he was actually playing quarterback. I coached against him when he was in high school. They didn't have too much going on as a team, but he was a huge presence at quarterback, tremendous athlete. I talked to him the other day, and he said he likes to think of himself as the Cam Newton before there was a Cam Newton.
Cam Newton was definitely Cam Newton.
You ever get a chance to play basketball against him out in Calgary?
No, I haven't.
He's insane.
He's nice?
He's really good, yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Actually, you got a couple of guys on the team that can really play basketball with Brissett and Nate.
Guess we're going to have to see. I hoop.
Yeah.
I'm a hooper.
Okay. So you think you can hang? You think you can hang with Breskison on the court?
I can definitely hang. I feel like I can hang with anybody, really, except if you're like 6'7".
Yeah. Well, we got a couple of those guys coming in too. O'Kine, Craig Rowe, and good luck boxing out Drake Nevis.
Oh yeah, I'm excited about the D-line.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I love D-line.
Well, it makes your job easier.
Way easier. If they're not there, it makes my job way harder.
We're all so excited about getting things going up here. We can't wait.
Other sports are starting to, put plans together, and I feel like the CFL needs to, get along with other sports leagues that are being proactive and finding solutions. Even if you find solutions and then that solution doesn't work, you're still actively searching for solutions. That first solution might not be it, but then you make adjustments after that, and then that will bring the start date closer because you'll just be checking things off the list that need to get done and compiling a plan, like the NFL or NBA. I know they have more money for tests and things like that. It's going to be a stress to get like around the clock testing basically and all those type of things. But I feel like the game needs to be played. I think we need to get back to playing sports, and hopefully the CFL can be a part of that wave and come back post pandemic and still have sports.
We're pretty desperate for some good news right now, and this would be a big story. We need football, I think, more than ever right now.
I want to see the CFL continue to grow.
Yeah, that too. I know. I saw you talking to Darby on Twitter about jerseys and stuff.
Exactly. I feel like in the NFL and the NBA, these players are celebrity figures because they play this sport. They've transformed into celebrity figures. In the CFL, I don't know if we have as many, celebrity figures, whether it be money that they, are making. They're not millionaires, so they're not. You could be a celebrity figure being, rich.
One of my former players is playing for the Chicago Bears right now, and the day after he signed in Chicago, there were email blasts about how to buy his jersey, stories on their website about other sports he played growing up, food he likes to eat. And they just create this excitement. I think the CFL tries to do it too. I think it's a little harder. I think there are fewer resources, but it's it's certainly something that does help the NFL create those celebrities, like you say.
Things like that to promote an individual player would in turn promote the league, I feel.
Shaq, thanks so much for giving me time today. It's been awesome. And like we said off the top, let's hope the world is in a better place real soon. And let's hope we can get back to some football.
Yeah, I hope so too. Hopefully, I just want to see change in our country and change around the world to where we can grow and move past, the things that have held us back for so long in our country's history. I just want to keep working past that. And if ever you want to talk football, X's and O's, I got them.
Well, that sounds good. I'm going to need some more advice next time I drop a depth chart.
I'll let you know.
Thanks so much, Shaq. All the best. Stay safe.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. Same to you.
That was Shaq Richardson, boundary half, boundary corner, or possibly Sam Backer, depending on who you ask. Well, that'll just about do it for us today. As always, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and tell every Argos fan you know about us. Thanks again to Shaq Richardson, who you can find on Twitter at DR_UNRULY. For JB, who you can find at Burke_XS, I'm at Ben_Grant, saying so long, and may all your pre-snap reads be good ones. I'll see you.
Go, Toronto Argos, go, go, go. Pull together, fight the foe.